Epic fail supreme. Everything about attempted terrorist attack in Machulishchi. I blew up a plane. A case of foot-in-mouth disease. Psychological operations film company presents. It will never fly again. Where SBU's bomber agent failed. We called him Avatar. Methods employed by the fugitives. Frame your own people. You're a swine. Epic fail of Ukraine's security agencies. Why SBU is now lawlessness service of Ukraine. Watch it right now. It would be just under a week from the moment the Ukraine's SBU security service agent Nikolai Shvets activated a drone explosion at the airfield in Machulishchi to the point when the security forces burst into his hideout in a summer cottage in Minsk district. And with each day in that period, the bomber had ever fewer chances of escaping from Belarus. Despite SBU involving more than 8,000 people in his covert operation and used hundreds of media outlets to cover up their egregious failure in Machulishchi. The repercussions will reach as far as Kiev and will affect a number of high-ranking officers of the SBU, right up to the deputy head of the agency, Alexander Yakushev. So what happened on the 24th of February? Why were the SBU generals hoisted by their own bomb? And why did some begin to decry SBU as the lawlessness service of Ukraine? Your full name, Shvets Nikolai Vladimirovich. Date of birth, 1993, April 5th. Nationality, Ukraine. How did you get here? The full story. I used my Russian passport to get to Russia and then traveled here. Who is the organizer of the acts that you committed? What kind of terror attack did you carry out in the Republic of Belarus? I blew up a plane. Where? Machulishchi airfield. When? 26th of February. How did you do it? I used 2 drones. Who is the organizer of this terror attack? I worked with the SBU. Overwhelmed and practically naked, Nikolai Shvets on the floor of the cottage in Borovlany, born 1993, is a nationalist who is also a real Russian passport. He received this ID in Crimea when the peninsula became part of the Russian Federation. He then left for Kiev with it. After the outbreak of hostilities, he joined the military and very soon he was recruited by the SBU. He agreed to be trained to carry out missions to blow up planes on territory of other countries. He underwent a mandatory polygraph test and was given the operational pseudonym Gaspar. It's my curator. I met him in Kiev and was in constant contact with him. It's the SBU. What's his name? Alexander, so I believe. Were you contacted by one and the same person? From the SBU? Yes, always the same, the only one. During your stay in Belarus, were you in constant contact with him? Every day. Except the last 5. The training began in the fall of 2022. Shvets received a laptop with a drone flight simulator. The next stage will be real flights at a shooting range near Kiev with mock-up grenades. The curators said that Shvets' mission could be a diversion at the Russian airfield in Engels, where strategic bombers were stationed. For this, there was another training ground near Boryspil, which is very similar to the Russian one. I trained for about a month.
Научился, сдал экзамены и дальше пошли уже практические занятия.
Passed my exams and it was time for real-world practice at training grounds. I had about 4 practical exercises with different drones at the airfield in Boryspil, at some military practice grounds, in the forest and in some field, I don't remember where exactly.
И где-то еще в поле, не помню, где это было. Да, и последний раз, последняя тренировка была уже приближена.
The last practical was close to combat conditions, only we used mock-ups. The drone was the same I would have here, but we flew with mock-ups. However, in December, Shvets will receive another assignment, Belarus, the Machulishchi airfield, blowing up a plane known as the Eyes of the Russian Air Force, the A-50U.
Мне уже примерно сказали, что мне нужно будет делать.
I already got a general briefing on what I would have to do if I go. They hinted at an early warning aircraft, though I didn't know where it was. It was still secret at that point.
То есть, секретная информация была пока. Вот, и буквально там за, может быть, пол.
It was about half a month before my departure that I got the info on the target and saw the map. It became apparent that he was in Belarus, the Machulishchi airfield.
Аэродром Мачулищи.
Shvets was given a special phone with some special apps. They allowed to remotely monitor not only the agent's actions, but also the surroundings while running in the background. Also, Shvets could install special SBU spying apps on clean phones. He was provided with them as well. For example, when installed on two paired devices, the software allows automatic forced deletion of all data in the devices in case of unauthorized access. On January 15, 2023, Shvets left Kiev for Warsaw with the drones and money. Vitaly Yakutik, a Belarusian radical who fled to Poland and earlier took part in 2020 protests, will get the devices to Belarus. However, Shvets would not be able to enter our country on the first run. At the border crossing point, the border guard will notice that Shvets's Russian passport does not allow him to cross the border. The SBU agent breaks the instructions of his handlers and exposes his national ID. He realizes that otherwise he had no chance of entering the country, and he goes all in, showing the Ukrainian passport, which can be used to enter Belarus. But his conduct is too suspicious. The Belarusian guards do not give him such a chance.
Первое, что смутило, значит, это его просьба. Просьба не проставлять отметку в паспорт о пересечении нашей границы. Хотя, несмотря на то, что в его паспорте на тот момент уже...
The first thing that raised suspicions was his request not to put a mark in his passport about crossing our border, although he already had a mark stamped by border guards from the Bobrovniki checkpoint, which should expose the fact of him entering our country. He explained that he was fleeing the war, planned to go back to his relatives later, and the Belarusian stamp could mean trouble for him, but we didn't go with it.
Его просьба, соответственно, была не удовлетворена.
Hastily, the SBU comes up with a new itinerary for the agent: Warsaw, Riga, Pskov. When he was crossing the border, Russian border guards dropped Nikolai Shvets off and demanded to see all of his passports. Special service officers even questioned the Ukrainian, examined his belongings and the phone. In the end, after paying a fine for not having a Russian travel passport, Shvets was allowed into Russia. He hitchhiked to Pskov and from there got to Minsk by bus. Vitaly Yakutik from Poland will help him rent an apartment.
В ходе реализации оперативных мероприятий было установлено.
In the course of the investigation, it was established that it is very likely that Polish special services were also involved. This is evidenced by the fact that several people from among the so-called fugitives who are currently residing in Poland were involved in it. These people helped set up channels for organizing the delivery of explosives, drones, in short, entry of the terrorist into the territory of the Republic of Belarus, and prepared and implemented his evacuation. The apartment became a kind of headquarters. Shvets, under the clear guidance of the SBU, began the final preparations for the terror attack. The explosives, drone, batteries and control panels were stowed away in a cache in one of the forests near Minsk.
Мне отправили координаты, фотографии, примерно где-то находится описание.
I was given the coordinates, the photos of the place where it was hidden, and the tax description. I ordered a taxi to a settlement nearest to the said point.
Несколько километров. Нашел.
Then I walked a few kilometers, found the cache, put the things into my backpack and went back to the apartment. I hid the equipment in the apartment and awaited further instructions.
Что с этим делать?
The curators pressed him to carry out the attack in Machulishchi before the 21st of February, because according to the information of the SBU, the plane was to leave Belarus. Shvets was prompted through the smartphone's video link how to connect the equipment in the right way.
Мы его называли вообще аватаром, потому что, я говорю, он каждый шаг.
We called him Avatar because he had to get instructions on every step along the way. As he was putting the drones together, he would have an earphone. The person on the other end could see his hands and would tell him what to do. Don't touch here, carefully there, like that. After he was detained, during the initial investigation, it was found that he was controlled at all stages of the operation by foreign special services. On the 19th of February, Shvets made his first attempt to launch the drone. The drone's reactions to commands were delayed, the signal was often lost, and it was impossible to reach the target. A repeater was needed to boost the signal. It was delivered by another accomplice, Mikhail Domin, a citizen of Belarus who visits Ukraine very often. Shvets bought the rest in a construction hypermarket in Minsk.
Я получил через 5 дней где-то посылку с ретранслятором.
5 days later, I got a package with a repeater by mail. It's a small electronic board with a battery and an antenna. It is used to boost the signal. The idea was to install it at a considerable height. Then it would amplify the signal and would be fine.
Естественно, он усилил бы сигнал там в разы, и должно было все получиться. Предполагалось. Я получил этот усилитель.
That was the plan. I got the repeater, put it together, and next Sunday went on the mission fully equipped. And it worked. On the morning of the 26th of February, Shvets drove a car to Machulishchi. He walked through the woods to get as close to the airfield as possible and landed 2 drones on the fuselage of A-50U aircraft. About 10 a.m., 2 explosions occurred in the airfield parking area in Machulishchi. Shvets had the time to upload the video of the approach to cloud storage. However, he felt very nervous. He was in a hurry, he fell and lost his backpack and equipment.
Подозреваемый в совершении террористического
We identified the suspect in the terrorist attack on the same day, the 26th of February, and together with the police organized a search, which resulted in our finding out that a person named Shvets was involved in a terrorist attack, was evacuated to the town of Stolin on the 26th of February. Very soon, even a description of the bomber appears in the media, and the SBU begins to unfold an information and psychological operation, primarily to hide into shadows, not to be associated with the incident, shifting the focus to Budanov's Army Intelligence Agency, a rival service, did not work. And then the robber Azarov springs up, claiming up that it was all the work of his fake organization made up of a couple of fugitive traitors.
Да, это были участники плана «Перемога», белорусские партизаны.
Yes, they were members of the Peremoga plan, Belarusian partisans, the followers of the railway war that was conducted in February and March of last year. They're safe, in quarantine as they say, and we're keeping radio silence. They don't want to comment, but basically, when they're ready, we'll report, because a lot of media have reached out for those comments. However, Azarov's fictitious confessions are willingly believed and disseminated by the structures that are financed by foreign special services. So there were cases with outright mockery on the part of seemingly fellow traitors. And the story is already changing. Now it's the partisans who blew up the plane. And then here comes Azarov saying they're all our partisans. It's the Peremoga plan. So you don't believe Azarov? No, saying that it was by poll is advantageous to all the 3 parties, and I expect it will be spinned in the media just like that. But talk is cheap. The same goes for the statement that, and I quote, those involved in the attack are already abroad and safe. And said that those people who were involved in the attack are already safe. Can we really state that? Yes, they left the country and are safe. And one more quote. The damage is so extensive that the plane will never fly again. This plane has sustained damage which renders it inoperative. And suddenly the plane took off, and together with it, 100-fold replicated statements by Azarov about the critically damaged aircraft went down. And then the screams about the silence of the Belarusian authorities began. They deny the Machulishchi incident, but in reality this was not the case. It was refuted that the aircraft was destroyed, lost its airworthiness. Russian plane A-50U was destroyed or critically damaged. Many experts say this aircraft is out of action until the end of the war. In the Machulishchi near Minsk, an aircraft blows up. It will stay until the end of the war.
Власти испугались.
The authorities are frightened because Belarusian propaganda TV does not comment on it. As they say, feel the difference and learn to read between the lines. A flying plane is a deadly argument against the above thesis. Well, the restrained information those days was dictated by operational work. The whole tangle had to be unraveled. And despite the provocations of the Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, to start talking, the Belarusian security forces worked for the result in cold blood. The SBU tried to divert attention from the incident in Machulishchi, their fail with the agent and the results of his sabotage, and organized a raid by nationalists on the Bryansk region of Russia. It also did not bring the desired result.
На протяжении всей операции мы понимали, что противник пытается нас дезинформировать.
Throughout the entire operation, we understood that the enemy was trying to misinform us and saw this as mass stovepiping in information space. They said that the person involved in a terrorist attempt had already been evacuated from a territory of the Republic of Belarus, that he was safe, but we knew he wasn't. Therefore, the search continued and in the end the suspect was detained. This indicates that the working algorithm of foreign intelligence services is known and we were able to successfully resist it. Then, completely idiotic media fakes were released by Azarov, continuing to convince that it was he and not the SBU who had been behind the attack on the plane. When the operational bulletin on Shvets came, the fugitive traitor began to assert that he had not been the perpetrator of the already unsuccessful terrorist attempt on the aircraft that still flies. Is it liable to death penalty in Belarus, yes? Yes, but no one can be put to prison because all those involved are already abroad. What happened next was even more interesting. Nikolai Shvets's sister recognized him. It is his photo. But she denied that he was in Belarus. Say, 25th and 26th of February he was at home. Let's jump ahead and talk to the bomber's brother Vladimir an hour before the moment the president will tell about the detention of a relative near Minsk. Vladimir also lies that Nikolai is in Ukraine.
По поводу брата вашего. Вот в Беларуси говорят о том, что он причастен к теракту.
Information came that he is now detained, period. But we do not know, is it your brother? What do you say? How do you react to this? And what do you say? Where is he at all?
Ничего об этом не
I
знаю.
don't know anything about it. The brother is at home. In the territory of Ukraine? Which country? Well, he is in Ukraine. Have you contacted him? Is the information correct? Yes, I saw him this morning. Who, if not the SBU, forces the relatives of Nikolai Shvets to lie so godlessly? But back to February 26. What actually happened after the attack?
Где, куда я должен приехать, примерно, где должен оставить машину, где должна меня ждать другая машина. Я должен был бросить там машину, в этом поселке, выйти на точку, примерно на точку, где находится.
Where I had to arrive, where to ditch the car, where another car would wait for me, in the settlement. The driver, as I understood, did not know the final destination. Additional
Были
security
экстренно
measures
введены
were
дополнительные
urgently
меры
introduced at the
безопасности
state
на
border of
государственной
the
границе
Republic of
Республики
Belarus.
Беларусь,
This made
что
it possible
позволило
to disrupt the
сорвать
plan on the
первичный план по
evacuation of the
эвакуации
terrorists to the
террориста
territory of
на
Ukraine.
территорию
Thus, the
Украины.
Foreign Intelligence Service
Соответственно,
put into
иностранная
effect a backup
спецслужба
plan
ввела
for him.
в
And
действие
in order to
запасной
ensure
план
his
по его
safety, the original
эвакуации.
route was changed. The SBU escape plan was to arrive at the village of Sloboda. Shvets would leave the car there, and on the Minsk-Mikashevich highway, Mikhail Domin took him by car. The curators from Kiev gave him the password in reply for the meeting with Anna Yatsute in Stalin. This is a video of her cousin Lilia Sharai when she met her upon arrival.
Младшая сестра, ты роднее всех на свете.
The Ukrainian citizen will give Nikolai Shvets the keys to the apartment where he will hide. The sister will help. But Lilia Sharai will not know for whom. Anna will simply frame her and run back with the pretext of her child's illness.
Времени хотела приехать до меня. И что ты приехала ко мне, к Юре, сделала...
You had wanted to come to us for so long, so you came and brought problems to me, to Yuri, to Dasha, to Vadim, who serves in the army. How could you have done it? I waited for you for 3 years. It's a dirty trick.
Свинья ты.
During the implementation of urgent operational measures in the town of Stolin, we identified a Ukrainian citizen who had arrived in Stolin shortly before the appearance of Shvets, especially to ensure his safe evacuation to the territory of Ukraine. During her stay, she managed to involve several citizens of the Republic of Belarus into illegal activities, including her cousin, who is currently detained and is confessing. I would like to remind you that ignorance of the law does not exempt from responsibility. Complicity in such grave crimes threatens considerable problems. While in the hideout, after a while Shvets notices a forced reboot and erasing of his smartphone memory. This suggests that operatives have found his rented apartment in Minsk. The first phone was left there. A failed terrorist attack, a frustrated evacuation plan, conflicting messages on the internet, and a feeling of a very imminent denouement. Meeting with the Belarusian Special Services drove Nikolai Shvets into a hysterical state. He calls his brother Vladimir, to whom we spoke on the phone. He begs him to contact the curator from the SBU.
Соответственно, мы ехали тоже без связи, я конкретно ехал без связи. Телефон там выбросил свой. Инструкция такая была уничтожить телефон, сим-карту.
While driving, we had no connection. I threw my phone away, as it had been instructed. No contact with the SBU curator.
С моим куратором. Человек меня довез до Минска.
And I did what the driver told me to. He brought me to a private house in Minsk.
Все, куда меня поселили. Человека того я больше не видел. Ну все, и жил там где-то 5
I lived
дней.
there for 5 days. There I was apprehended by special forces.
После того, как украинская спецслужба поняла, что
The Ukrainian intelligence service realized that the evacuation of Shvets to their territory through Stolin failed. We took urgent measures to block the state border. An emergency scenario was implemented to bring it to the suburbs of Minsk. During this, the communication channel with the agent was cut off. As a result, he panicked and asked for an urgent evacuation via an emergency communication channel, since he worried a lot about his safety. He independently restored the communication channel with his brother, through which he turned to the supervising SBU officer with a demand to ensure his safety and evacuation from Stolin. After that, he was conspiratorially taken to the suburbs of Minsk and placed in one of the cottages of the Garden Partnership with the close connection of one of the fugitives. Another Belarusian runaway living in Poland, psychotherapist Yevgenia Tachitska, helped Shvets lie low in a cottage. The SBU agent was taken there by her friend Lapatin, also a Belarusian radical activist. And here in the house of the Garden Partnership, Birch Grove 1 of the Borovlany Village Council, Nikolai Shvets' escape from the inevitable finale was broken. The State Security Committee, KGB, jointly with the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the State Border Committee and other enforcement bodies, held a high-scale special operation. As a result, a citizen of Ukraine, Shvets Nikolai Vladimirovich, born 1993, was detained in a safe house. He had attempted a terrorist act in a Belarusian military facility, Machulishchi airfield of Minsk district, on the 26th of February 2023. The KGB counterintelligence activity ascertained direct complacency of operatives and leaders of the security service of Ukraine to the terrorist act. The SBU system of recruiting of Ukrainian citizens for terrorist acts in the territories of foreign states was unveiled. Organizations which were used for their training, tactics of implementation of explosives were detected, as well as mechanisms for communication and control over the agents. Escape channels for the agents were found and closed. The preliminary investigation suggests that in the preparation of the terrorist act, Poland's special services were involved. They use agents from among the so-called Belarusian fugitives, who stood for violent overthrow of the constitutional order, active participants of the August 2020 events. The operation to search for and detain criminals was held under the direct control of the head of state, who immediately gave instructions to block the state border and take other comprehensive measures aimed at identifying and bringing to justice all those involved in terrorist activities. As a result, an agent network of citizens of the Republic of Belarus who took part in supporting the activities of the terrorist agent, his legalization on a touch of the Republic of Belarus, and unsuccessful evacuation attempt was uncovered and liquidated. Alexander Lukashenko, even while in China, thoroughly followed all the information about the investigation into the attempted terrorist attack in Machulishchi. The Belarusian security forces carried out the operation not just promptly but exemplary. For the results achieved, representatives of the law enforcement bloc were awarded.
Это блестяще проведенная операция. Совершенно невероятная, чтобы за каких-то 4-5 дней установить всех пособников и задержать.
The operation was organized brilliantly. It was unbelievable to detect and apprehend all of the accomplices within 4 to 5 days.
Мерзавцев за пределами нашей страны и внутри нашей страны вычислили его. Вот просто вычислили в кабинете 2 точки. Когда вы зашли в эту точку, когда он лег на дно и ждал нового маршрута, вы его взяли в первой же этой квартире, под Боровлянами.
To find a needle in a haystack, they analyzed thousands of conversations and phone calls between various dregs inside and outside our country. Finally, they tracked down 2 possible apartments where the perpetrator could have hidden, and they got him in the first one, a house in the Garden Partnership in Borovlana district. In the basement, they found a printing shop, anti-government symbols, just a rascal's den. What I have always told you, we must never relax. The Secret Service of Ukraine gave instructions to the Belarusian opposition fugitives in Poland. They coordinated the accomplices in Belarus who helped the bomber hide from beginning to the end of the operation.
Прятаться, притом и на начальном и конечном этапе нашей операции.
Kretz was apprehended with a huge amount of evidence, both for operating drones and other devices. He is actively confessing. More than 20 persons were detained. A criminal case has been initiated. It may result, under the amended legislation, in the capital punishment. Well, for the Ukrainian Security Service SBU, the highest punishment is a monstrous failure in the Belarusian Machulishchi. The aircraft was not destroyed, the perpetrator was captured. The traitors did not cover him. The intellectual and operational competition with the Belarusian security forces was completely lost. In Kiev, the top of the SBU were given at the neck. Resignations of generals serves as a confirmation to this. Accomplices who escaped abroad will still get their due in time. Let them not doubt. If the curators from the Lawlessness Service of Ukraine do not make them disappear forever.